Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Perfect Talk with Dr. Hlami. This is the platform where we are talking everything agriculture, but beyond our normal understanding of primary production. In this platform, we bridge the knowledge gap by bringing exciting people who are doing exciting things within the sector, not necessarily through farming, but the whole perfect contornum. Let me remind you again what that perfect contornum is all about. We are talking policies, we're talking education, we're talking research, but we're also talking farming and finance. We are talking extension and advisory services. We talk communications. We talk technologies and trade. Today, I'm bringing you a very exciting, powerful, inspiring person who is doing valuable things in the agricultural sector through the communication space. Let us go all the way to Zimbabwe to meet Busani Bafana, who is a journalist. Yes, you heard me. He's a journalist, but he has found his niche in the agricultural sector. Busani, welcome to the Perfect Talk with Dr. Hlami.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hlami. I'm delighted to be here.
Yes. So who is Busani Bafana?
Interesting question. I've always asked myself, who am I?
Yes.
I think I consider myself a local boy and a local citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Local boy being, I was born and raised in Zimbabwe, educated there a bit, and got the opportunity to actually become a global citizen, to know what goes around the world. Journalist for that, I trained as a journalist in the craft really of, if you say, making news, researching news, publishing news. But it's better than that. I've come to blend my skills as a journalist into writing, into storytelling.
Okay.
I am a storyteller who is an unrepentant, passion for communication. I believe that journalism is more than just telling story and just reporting the news.
Yes.
It is actually shaping opinions. So I see myself as that storyteller who builds narratives and actually gets people excited. To use a description of a first thriller writer, Alfred Hitchcock was asked, what do you do, Mr. Hitchcock? He says, I produce bumps. I believe my work is also enticed to make people excited and surprised, to produce those goosebumps through my writing and interaction with the people that I profile.
Okay, I know that and I understand that, because normally a journalist will not necessarily see his or her role in the agricultural sector, but that is where you are flourishing. How did that happen?
I would have thought by accident. I studied agriculture at school, and I enjoyed the subject. How to actually plant your basic vegetables, looking at chickens, rearing rabbits. And I recall the one joke that we had at school was we could actually write the whole gut of a chicken, in our sleep. We start from the gaza, and even with the whole biology of the cow, it's something that we're excited to do. But I never thought I would be writing about at the same time. So in 1998, I took a training at Reuters, largely covering the environment. And that training exposed me to the forming of how you actually write stories, ensuring that you bring people, into the narrative. And the techniques actually learned made me think seriously about my coverage, just the environment in general, but agriculture in particular, and food, for instance. Got very excited about that. By the way, I love food. And I always say that I'm on a seafood diet. I seafood, eat it, and I hope it can change my outlook, how food is produced.
Yes.
So that interest got me into writing about agriculture, and my start really after this training, I started, investigating more how is food produced, goes on, what is the entire value chain of, when it is actually grown in farm, up to time we have this food on our table. And that got me really think that as a journalist, is this really a bit I would want into? Because I remember when I was trying to freelance, sell my studies on agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
many publications say, it's not an earth-shaking story. The earth-shaking on agriculture, and there's a food crisis, or there's a drought, or there's a flood.
Uh-huh.
I got to understand that if you write about politics or business, the principles that you actually apply in how you actually go agriculture. For
Yeah.
me, I've only used that in develop my craft and writing about.
Okay. This is very, very exciting. But what I like about your work, it's that you write about agriculture in broad. You talk about your smallholder farmers, you talk to commercial farmers, so you don't only have a narrow perspective of what agriculture is, but you are more embracing. Tell me a little bit about the picture that we see here.
I was actually in Zambia. This I think was wow, time flies. I think must have been 2000 and 2005, 2004. I'd
Okay.
actually gone to a small community in Zambia, just side Lusaka, where I'd met farmers who were in fact growing sorghum to complement their maize. In Africa, all love our maize so much, and sometimes you wonder if we had to take our maize, we'll have a lot of people who will be ill, or there will be a riot. So
Yes.
these two farmers, was a farmer and the lady farmer, husband.
Mm-hmm.
They were really telling me about the hard that they actually had in the background. They actually harvest the crops, the good maize crop harvest. They also had a good sorghum harvest. But now they were actually explaining to me that, over this we have realized when we grow more of our sorghum,
Mm-hmm.
we are sure that we have enough food. Like when we grow maize, we have started seeing a change, in the rainfall pattern.
Mm-hmm.
But even there's less rain, we're still able to harvest enough of our sorghum crop compared to our maize crop. So
Yeah.
to me, that's very, very interesting, because I ended up asking them, are you only growing this sorghum for food and what else? And they related to me that they were making money from the addition of the sorghum. We were selling it to buyers who make additional beer. And they were saying that this is actually a sorghum success. This is where we're deriving most of our income.
Wow.
So broadly, yes, you actually asked the question that, yes, I don't only try and speak to smallholder farmers, commercial farmers, but I believe agriculture is broad. There are many actors, and here all these many actors constitute to me a perfect meal.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we eat food, we always talk about the various ingredients that go to
Yes.
making food. They have vitamins, they have
Exactly.
minerals, carbohydrates, etc.
Yes.
And I always get my coverage that it must be a full meal by talking to everybody.
I hear you. I see some similarities with the work that you do and the work that I do, because I believe that I could talk, every day about the perfect opportunities that are there in agriculture. And when I'm hearing you, you are saying you can write every day a story about, agriculture from different perspectives and all that. So there is enough to write about. Yeah? Is that it?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
The world is so big in terms of agriculture stories,
Yes.
because I think the agriculture, the coverage of agriculture is the bit that allows you to write about anything else. Literally, politics comes into agriculture, how
Mm-hmm.
policies are made, how we actually trade.
Mm-hmm.
Business comes into agriculture. Farms
Yes.
grow and they sell.
Yes.
The issue of water security comes into agriculture. The
Yes.
impact of climate change on the availability of water and rain,
Yes.
that comes into agriculture.
Yeah.
Even when you can about transport, it's
Yes.
some transport. If fuel price goes up,
It's a story.
farmers may not be able to move their goods to market,
Yes.
especially where they have hire
Mm-hmm.
a transporter.
Mm-hmm.
That implication. So agriculture effect, to me, is the best bit, because you can talk about everything else under the agriculture and cover it, which also brings me to that there is a link between journalism and agriculture. The link is immense. In fact, agriculture needs journalism. Agriculture
Yes.
needs those journalists to actually tell a story.
Yes, it's very exciting because in one of my previous shows, I also had a lady who was a trained journalist, and she also found a niche in agriculture, but she's doing something slightly different from what we are doing because she's more on, the communications and all that and whatnot. But I know that you also do training on communications, and we'll come to that. But what I'm seeing is that both of you were trained, journalists, but you found different niche, a space within the sector, using your journalism to communicate, what is happening in the agricultural sector. So my question is, researchers tell stories also around agriculture, but your storytelling, it's different because this is not necessarily scientific, the stories, but it is, how would you classify that type of storytelling, and how is it different from scientific writing?
Right. The essence of my type of storytelling is to ensure that I tell a simple story,
Mm-hmm.
an exciting story,
Mm-hmm.
a lasting story that transforms how people think,
Mm-hmm.
that changes perception, that also not only does debate, but ensure that some action is done.
Okay.
My audience is everybody.
Yes.
My audience should be my grandmother, a
Mm-hmm.
4-year-old, a 5-year-old child. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling them about agriculture, about how food is produced, I'm ensure that it is explained in every way. I got a very interesting example where, when you write as a scientist, you always want to use scientific terms which are appropriate to the profession and to actually how you narrate, in the scientific arena. I
Mm-hmm.
always hear scientists talking about sequestration, and I wondered, as agriculture journalists, how do you tell audience about sequestration? I kept wondering that this is a very highly scientific term.
Yes.
And I asked the scientist, could you actually put it to me in lay term? What is sequestration? Only to discover it is the session of carbon into the soil, that when carbon is in the air, it is fixed into soil,
Yes.
and it triggers other process that then that carbon is absorbed and then either used by the trees to then manufacture their food. So
Yes.
my type of storytelling is at exciting, informing, down the line,
Yes.
hopefully educating, but in a simpler manner, so that nobody has to grab a dictionary when they're reading
Yes.
story, or listening to my interview, or they are seeing a video that I've actually done.
Yes. I hear. So you are actually trying to simplify complex concepts in the manner that it makes sense to an ordinary person out there.
Indeed, that is the the essence of the whole idea of outside journalism. But
Okay.
also, while we're telling that story,
Mm-hmm.
we want to adhere to a lot of critical principles like ethics. We must
Yes.
be able to verify the stories that news and the stories that we actually tell. Because
Yes.
our job is not to listen rumor, and if it tells you a rumor, you go and go and you write a story. Because
Mm-hmm.
if that was the case, I think things that everybody will be reading would be so scared and shocking. I think the field, the profession of journalism will be spreading
Mm-hmm.
a lot of mayhem. Already is challenging times now that journalists are actually in a situation where they've got to be more professional
Mm-hmm.
and to improve their craft in the advent of fake news. And
Yes.
this is something that would affect my kind of retelling, that I
Okay.
need to also ensure that I tell truth. Why I interview people,
Okay.
I listen to their stories, I share their stories. I
Mm-hmm.
must adhere to the cause that what I put there is
Yes.
factual,
Yes.
is fair,
Yes.
and ensure that what is maligned in process.
Yes. And someone who's listening to this conversation and they are in journalism and stuff, the question that they will ask is that who will be interested in an agricultural story? And I was Googling, trying to find you. And voila, I got a lot of recent articles. And I could see, okay, so there is a demand for the kind of work that you are doing. And I've picked, some of, the links here and some of the stories here. At least I could pick, three kind of, outlets, so to say, and in some of them, you had a lot of stories. Tell me a bit about these outlets, the people who are interested in those agricultural stories. I see we have,
Thank you. Yes,
Thomas Reuters Foundation.
I
Mm-hmm.
also for a number of outlets,
Mm-hmm.
namely written for the interpret service that I've been exponent for a while, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And audiences would range yes, from your farmers to your policymakers to your researchers
Mm-hmm.
to people who are interested on the issue of the agriculture sector, food production, nutritional security. So it's a big spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
We want to shape the narrative and engage people in debate, as well as a profile.
Mm-hmm.
What is working? What is transforming our livelihoods through the sector of agriculture?
Mm-hmm.
How our farming helping us grow more healthier food, for example.
Mm-hmm.
How is research? What researchers are innovating being applied by
Mm-hmm.
farmers?
Mm-hmm.
How is technology influencing farmers or policymakers
Mm-hmm.
in the realm of let's say in food production? For example, now we've got ICTs.
Mm-hmm.
Farmers are actually using mobile phones to trade, in
Mm-hmm.
mobile phones to extension advice.
Mm-hmm.
So my story writing has looked at various aspects of
Mm-hmm.
agriculture. There's a stat I think is there on, that we were just showing there on how women agribusinesses are boosting nutrition in Africa. In the
Yes.
story, I was talking about how women who are entrepreneurs in agriculture
Yes.
are actually growing healthy foods,
Yes.
deriving many benefits from them,
Yes.
getting better income, and
Mm-hmm.
also promoting nutrition in their community because they actually develop these products locally, materials,
Mm-hmm.
they are employing local people, and
Mm-hmm.
they are encouraging everybody to eat healthy. So
Wow.
this story speaks to many audiences. It speaks to the farmers, to you and me, average
Yes.
people, to know that it's important that we actually eat healthy, especially now. it was to policymakers. How do we
Exactly.
tweak our policies to
Yes.
actually to promote a better product by smallholder farmers?
Yes.
And also to researchers who actually look at how are these local foods nutritious, what
Mm-hmm.
nutrition content of those local foods, how could we scale up some of these innovations. There's also a there you can see there's a picture of two young farmers. These farmers have
This
actually
one.
applied innovation in growing their vegetables, horticulture farmers who are
Okay.
using climate smart agriculture initiatives. They actually drip irrigate and
Uh-huh.
also using GPS to actually mark, they might their farm know when to which ones to plow,
Mm-hmm.
and also when they actually watering, their
Yes.
farm. They've been innovative. So I was actually profiling how they are using all these skills as young
Yes.
to actually in their farming. And there is a story again, I think, on there's women step forward in push to nature African climate science. Here
This.
I actually interviewed a number of scientists who are
Okay.
telling me about work they are doing around a climate smart innovation, which
Okay.
they help shape farmers. And
Mm-hmm.
one argument I picked up behind the theory was, what would change if we could have more women scientists
Yes.
innovating and sharing their outputs with women? If we have more women scientists, would we have more women farmers adopting technology? Because women scientists would understand the needs of women, which I think a very important argument. Because in
And and
agriculture,
and what did
women
you get?
constitute a large number of farmers, and they
And
also make up the largest number of processors and marketers of food.
yes.
So to me, that story was speaking broadly to women and
Yes.
to researchers and you name it, policymakers.
Busani, let me ask, on that story, as a woman, I'm very much interested on some of the lessons that you learned from that story. Did it prove that if we had more women scientists, then what was the results? What was the lessons from that story?
I was actually intrigued. The science told me that, yes, while we could have women scientists, yes, then innovating and actually delivering these innovations to women farmers,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't necessarily mean that we should expect a great adoption, a greater number of farmers actually adopting those innovations. But it
Mm-hmm.
means that there is need to include more women in
Yes.
sciences.
Yes.
Let's work more women working together
Mm-hmm.
in some space as men.
Yeah.
Women should always be, they should not be marginalized in this in the
Okay.
science space. So get
Mm.
more women. The added advantage being that women should understand challenges that other women face.
Mm-hmm.
And in their innovation, yes, some might be women specific, but other innovations may be general, but they will be more readily accepted, when there is the face of women there. So the
Okay.
underlying lesson I learned was definitely we need a lot of women scientists. One thing that must actually happen is we must be promoting the science broadly in Africa, so that more women into this science STEM education
Okay.
as researchers, and especially in agriculture, we could have more agricultural researchers.
Exactly.
The impact will actually be greater than
Yes.
having less women in this space.
Yes. And talking about, scientists and technologies and all that, 2 years ago, I think, was it 2 years ago? Yes, we met in Accra at, the event that
Ago.
was organized by FARA,
Yes.
the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa. And while I was
Yes, it
moderating
was
that
that's
session,
where yeah.
yes, while I was moderating the sessions, you had a very important role to train the young, entrepreneurs that were there to write, their stories, okay, probably I'm not even articulating this well. Tell me what you were doing there.
Right. Yes, right. We're training young farmers, in fact, to run. My goal was to actually help the young farmers actually get the skill of actually basically writing together a story.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being that these young farmers that together in that meeting, to farm, they actually the innovators had been invited through a competition that was organized by to in fact present innovations that they've had in the agricultural space.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted them now to be able to tell their own story instead of them having somebody else telling the story for them. But them as farmers, how would you tell a story?
Mm-hmm.
If, for example, investor said, could you just tell me about your innovation, what have you done?
Yes.
So we're giving them skills. Say, this is how a basic story would look like. The whole end in mind that in them in their stories, these stories were going to be compiled into a booklet that will become an important part of documentation process, for innovations in agriculture.
Yes.
And it was very interesting because many actually were saying to me, when you tell a story, just mix your facts anyhow. There's no order. I'm saying instead of telling like basic writing, a story follows a certain pathway.
Exactly.
It's when you are giving a speech, you want to say there's an opening, there's a body, there's a conclusion. So I was trained in those skills, how you write a story.
Wow. And I know then we met yet again in another event. I think it was organized by CTA here in South Africa. You were also,
Yes.
training and, packaging. What were you doing there? What I'm trying to show our listeners here is that, yes, you are a journalist. You write, stories about agriculture and all that, but that is not the only thing that you do within the sector. You also train people, you package different knowledge products. What were you doing there?
For the CTA, it was a very interesting meeting that I, apart from, yes, as a journalist, I've also taken time to, in fact, learn about to maintain. Because documentation is very, very important. And this is one thing that is missing or that we're not doing a lot of, particularly in Africa. We never document our stories.
Yes.
So our role there was actually promote documentation in agricultural programs to ensure that when a project starts, we want to be able to document from the beginning, what did we do?
Yes.
Up to the time the project reached its conclusion.
Yes.
Because that brings in the element of we want to learn from our projects.
Yes.
As a journalist, I would also want to mention here that what also made it important for me to be invited into this meeting, I'm also a knowledge management scholar.
Yeah.
I'm studying knowledge management, and that it is very, very important that we know how to make the knowledge assets
Yes.
that are in our institutions.
Yes.
And increasingly, one of my goals, I share skills in documentation, in knowledge management, in knowledge sharing, as well as communication. So I was bringing all these elements in that training because I was actually speaking to an audience where you are both, we got farmers, we have policy makers, we have researchers. So it is important that should be able to document their projects in order to draw out key learning lessons and share experiences that have actually underlined, the development of those projects.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Bafana, I'm looking at this and I'm listening and I'm seeing a lot of opportunities that people can harness through the communication pathway, whether you have done journalism, whether you studied communications, whether you studied, knowledge management and monitoring and evaluation. there is a lot of knowledge and stories that need to be documented. But one thing that I have picked is that you don't just do these things, but you do it so well that you also got, recognition. As I was, going through and trying to stalk you when I was preparing for this talk, I came across, this picture. Do you want to tell me about it? You look like, you are holding a certificate and you were in Montpellier in France.
Right. This picture indeed brings goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
Say why it brings goosebumps. This was I won what's called the CGR Award, Excellence in Agricultural Journalism, in 2009. It was actually for a story that I wrote about the best banana in Africa. The story that I actually did in Kenya.
Okay.
My editor then at IPS,
Yes.
in fact, submitted the story to this competition. I was not aware of it.
Okay.
And I was surprised that I was actually in South Africa doing some work for Bafana. In fact, the day that I received this email saying, "We want to congratulate you that you have actually won the CGR award." I wondered, what is the CGR award? That was a joke, and I didn't take it serious until my editor phoned it. You'd be surprised.
Yes.
Your past story was actually picked for the award.
Wow.
The award recognized, I think, the good storytelling, if I may put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
The essence of this story was about how our farmers in Kenya safeguarding their banana crop by adopting improved technologies.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, they're using tissue culture banana that have actually been grown under very clean, safe conditions in the lab, which they were actually now using to actually that they were growing.
Yes.
Because a little bit of information, bananas are very sensitive plants. Actually growing bananas, they are vulnerable to pests and diseases. And scientists have been helping farmers actually develop better varieties of plants which are actually grown under sterile conditions using tissue culture technology. My story was actually on that and how these improved bananas have actually contribute to increased incomes for farmers actually in Kenya.
Yes.
I'm quite delighted, particularly because when I won this award, it was given together with 9 other scientists globally at this ceremony that was actually in Montpellier, France. I went there to collect this award. And I felt it was an investment really on the opportunity that agriculture offers. And also it was showing the link between my writing as a journalist and science.
Yes.
Because it's more of it was in a scientific conference where all other scientists were honored for this work. And a journalist was writing about agriculture, an important science in itself. Was a big as such.
Wow. I mean, this is exciting for me.
By the way, that award also carried a very nice cash award. I think it had a $1,000 cash.
Okay. That is really, really inspiring. And I'm actually looking at this picture and I'm hearing what you are saying. That was 2010. Now, 10 years later, it shows that even then, this marriage between scientific writing and, writing in a journalistic, way has been existing, so where scientific writing is actually meeting alternative, writing, and they get, recognized on the same, stage. I think that is really, really inspiring. And now with the digital transformation and all that, probably there are a lot of, innovations there. So finally, in closure, if there is someone who's listening, a young person there who was pondering about, entering the agricultural sector, and this person has an interest in journalism and communications and all that, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, for a start, you must have the interest of to write or to write about it, and then passion.
Passion.
Also, get the skills already. If journalist has already been trained, this is a way of specializing. Because I believe, for me, what drew me to agriculture is the passion of writing about this science.
Yes.
I want to understand who are the actors. You are able to interact with farmers in a field somewhere, and then to interact with a research in a lab, and the next day you are interacting with the Minister of Agriculture in a formal office. For the first thing, you must have the passion.
Yes.
For writing,
Yeah.
for interacting with people, also for learning, because agriculture is a field where learning never ends.
Exactly.
I want to believe that at the time, this is when the world needs agriculture journalists who could actually tell that whole story of the vast agriculture to livelihoods today. Because if you me, I don't think there's anyone who will live without agriculture, who will live without food.
Exactly.
So, and who's thinking of taking up the mantle to write about agriculture, must first of all have a passion for it.
Next time I'm going to invite you. You're going to be writing about the perfect journey. I'm sure, I think we need to tell a story about, the perfect opportunities and the perfect journey. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have time for today. Let me see. We are still on, yes. Yeah, we are still, in the perfect talk, platform with Dr. Hlami. You have heard for yourself that even through journalism, you have the space within the agricultural sector. You know where to find us. You have to subscribe if you want new and more exciting stories and opportunities within the sector. Busang, maybe lastly, if people want to find you, where should they go? Where can they find you? And, to get to know your services.
Right. Yes, I am available. I'm contactable on email. My email is Busani Bafana @gmail.com. And also on the mobile phone. My number is +263 772 553. I'm working on the website soon, and that I'll put on social media. And but Google, you could find my name, and I'll be happy to chat. I'll collaborate with anyone who has the same thing I have agriculture.
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much for gracing my show today. And I'm sure we will be inviting you again to share, more stories, and we take it from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure in giving you the show, and look forward to interacting again.